Okay, hello, welcome to Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Women. I'm Martina and I'm here with Christina. Christina, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
We were inspired to create this podcast after pondering on this question. What would the world look like where we can be inspired by every person? You know, usually we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody's losing. So depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking, or arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. And those are the only two options. And neither of those two options actually make us feel great. Not good, not great, not at all. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from first impressions, and we invite you, the listener, to go beyond first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner, in everyone, if we're willing to look. And today we're here with Tami. Tami, do you want to say hi and just introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello. Yes, my name is Tami. It is an absolute pleasure, honor to have a chat with you both today. I feel very, this is a gift to give me, other women, a platform to talk about ourselves. So yeah, this is probably the most I will ever talk about myself for like this long period of time, separate from therapy. So, it's sort of a treat to have an extended conversation. So yeah, who am I? So yeah, my name is Tami. I live in New York City. I've lived here for about 26 years. I live here with my husband, Sam, and my son, Oliver. We've been married for 22 years, together about 24. My son is 19. And that's a little bit sort of current. My background is in art history and museum education. Way back when, in another life, I was a museum educator, and then I got very involved, which is a whole story in itself, with a self-development company, and I quit my museum job and I went to work for this company, which got me to New York City because I was living in upstate New York, and I very much wanted to be a New Yorker. I'd always wanted to be a New Yorker since I was like 16. So it was an opportunity to move. I was single and in my 20s, and it was a great time to, just sort of feel the excitement of all of that. And yeah, it's, that's sort of like the broad strokes. I've done other things, after Landmark. I had a little break, and then I went back to school and I studied hands-on energy healing from a school called the Barbara Brennan School. And that was an amazing experience for me. I ended up not translating it into, a private practice. I did a lot of volunteering, but that was as far as that got. And then I homeschooled my son. So I stopped doing sort of anything that was, work intensive, so that I could focus on putting together a curriculum for him and running all over Brooklyn and New York, and, sort of doing that for 3 years. And then he started school again. So really, since about the last 7 years, it's been a slow process of like, all right, well, what do I want to do now? And I'm just kind of doing it. So a big portion of my time is spent on self-care, I would say. Not sure where to jump in with all of that, but I've had a lot of experiences in life that have left me gutted physically. So I've had more than a little stress, and it has impacted me physically and emotionally and spiritually. And I actually haven't been able to work. So the fatigue and anxiety was just too prevalent in my life. So, and now I'm fortunate enough where, I mean, I don't have to if I don't want to. It would be more an expression of what do I want to, is there something I want to do to give in more, that would create income, I guess. But I do plenty, I participate in a 12-step group. So I am a sponsor and I do a lot of service, and I support a lot of women in their journey. And that has been some really gratifying work. But it's not something that I really get to talk about because it's anonymous and private and, but it's probably something I spend a lot of, I spend many hours a week, engaged in those conversations. So it's not work in the traditional sense that I get a paycheck, but a lot of unpaid labor for us women, right?
That is such a good point, right? Because
Mhm.
we have success tied to money.
Mhm.
There's so many things where it's
Yeah.
like we're worth tied to money, and like we immediately associate it with that. So I thought it was really cool that you pointed that out, because it's really like those conversations was like, what does it mean to be successful, right?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, like you said, like New York City. What about New York City drew you? Just because
Oh,
it's New York City, or because?
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think so. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and I literally grew up in the woods. We had 16 acres. We were a 20-minute drive from the nearest store or civilization. And it was beautiful and lovely, like, in terms of aesthetic. And I don't even know where I got the idea. It was probably a bit of a rebellion against my father, who was very anti-city, and he was definitely a bit of a misanthrope. He did not really like people. He always said that he moved us there on purpose because he didn't want to be near people. He didn't have any friends, he didn't socialize very much, only when my mother kind of made him. And I don't know. I think because he hated cities, I was going to love them, probably was a part of it. And there was just something very romantic to me about New York City. And, for my 16th birthday, I have a December birthday, and I wanted, I was getting to say, like, how are we going to celebrate my birthday? And I wanted to go to New York. I wanted to spend the night in a hotel, and I wanted to ice skate at Rockefeller Center and have really great Chinese food. So, um, I just thought it was a magical place. I still think it's a magical place. I love the energy of the city. I also hate it. It's a definitely very much a New Yorker in that regard. Love-hate relationship with it. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, at least so far. So, and I think the energy of the city was something that I was drawn to. I never felt like I had a ton of energy myself. I think I had a lot of fatigue issues as a kid and not a lot of stamina. And there was something about being around other people's energy that I found energizing. So I enjoyed the city for that. Um, so yeah. So
Okay.
and I went to graduate school um to NYU. I was sort of back and forth between upstate and the city for a while before I settled here. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Tami, if we really knew you, what would we know?
Wow. Well, that I'm really shy.
Mm.
I'm really shy. And I've spent a lot of personal work overcoming my shyness, for sure. I feel very deeply, very empathetic to sometimes a fault. A lot of my work is developing boundaries so that I don't, sink too far into other people's thoughts and feelings. And yeah, I feel like I have a really tender, kind heart, and I'm funny. I'm a great playmate. I love to play, I love to do stuff. And I've had a lot of hardship. I've had a lot of stressful things happen that have definitely impacted the trajectory of my life. And I fully accept that. Like I have no regrets, I guess, put it that way.
Really cool.
I feel very fortunate, actually. So
Love it. So you touched on a little bit of that you're funny. So let's talk about a funny, silly, or embarrassing story.
oh, I have such a good one. I had fun time trying to think of this because there's so many. So all right, so scroll back freshman year of college. I just a little bit of background context is I went to I went to Quaker schools because I grew up in Pennsylvania. It's a very common thing there to go to Quaker schools. And not that necessarily was going to lend itself to making me naive, but I was. So freshman year of college, I'm coming back from class with a couple of friends who live in my suite, a couple ladies, and I smell brownies, like someone is cooking chocolate delicious brownies, and the smell, the smell of brownies, like you open the door and it's just like wafts and hits you, and I'm like, oh, someone is making brownies. They smelled so good. And then the person I was walking with, she said, like, yeah, they're hash brownies. And I'm like, hash brownies? Like, why would you put, I only knew one hash, corned beef hash. I'm from Pennsylvania. It was a staple in our kitchen. Like, why would you put hash in brownies? Like, and she literally did not stop laughing for probably an hour because I had never heard the word hash before. And I didn't know that you could even put those in brownies and bake them. And there was a whole suite on our floor of, it was the stoner suite. And I certainly smelled the marijuana all the time, but I don't know. I didn't know. I was very naive and had no experience with it. It wasn't something I had ever partaken in. So, yeah, and it definitely went back to my Pennsylvania roots, that I revealed that the only hash I knew was a food. And, so
So good.
yeah, that's what was I learned. I learned.
Country bumpkin.
I never tried one. I mean, they smell good, but I was too scared. So yeah.
So tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And it might not be only romantic love. It just might be whatever is love for you. Might be for your son, might be for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think in my marriage, I took a chance for sure. So when my son was 6 months old, my father had just died, and we were visiting my mom, and it was just a big discovery that my husband had a whole other life that I was not really aware of. And I won't go into all the nitty-gritty details, it doesn't matter, but it was devastating. And definitely I spent the next probably 3-5 years really questioning, was I going to stay in this relationship? And I didn't fully answer that question, I'll be perfectly honest with you, for probably many years after that. Probably I really didn't feel settled until about 4 years ago, to be absolutely frank with you. It was a long, stressful period for me where I couldn't see staying and I couldn't see leaving. I felt very stuck. So the chance I took was more a chance I took on myself, where I finally was able to get to a place to articulate more what I wanted and what I needed. And things weren't all bad. We were like excellent co-parents and really good friends, and had a nice life. Nothing was ever all one thing. So no, I took a chance to I held out hope that things could evolve, and they have. And it's been amazing, and I'm glad I took the chance. But yeah, I would say that was a pretty big chance. So.
And how courageous to give yourself that much space to make that decision.
Yeah.
I think most women think they need to make that decision so quickly, right? Am I staying? Am I leaving?
That's a really good point, because I received a lot of judgment back then from people who I thought were my friends. And we definitely have this notion in the society that, women have to be, to be empowered, you have to make these snap, sharp decisions and not tolerate anything less. And obviously, if something's awful and you're not well and you need to leave, a relationship, one should do that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just your garden variety attachment stuff that happens. And yeah, like it's somehow shameful to be attached to the person you love. And I do not believe that. I didn't believe it then, but I certainly got a lot of judgment for it. So, yeah.
Really good when you can trust your own intuition. And
it was very painful. I mean, I ended up having to, I had a very dramatic exit from a whole friend group, not over that specifically, over other things that happened. I mean, that was a big part of my life, was after I left this self-development company, which was very hard to leave because I very much felt like it really became the center of my universe. And I worked 65 hours a week. I did not maintain, friendships outside of work because it was impossible to, because of all of I did a little, it wasn't completely off the rails, but it was really terrifying because I identified this company as my family. And it's actually where I met my husband, which was amazing. And so leaving was more than just leaving a job. It felt like I was leaving a community that I felt I belonged to, or I wanted to belong to. And I had a very deep need to belong. So I kind of just transferred that need to belong from that company to this woman who, she was a life coach. She also used to work for the self-development company, and she sort of started her own shop. And I was never a life coach. I didn't want to do that, but I stayed in her orbit, I would say. And it was an interesting time because she was the kind of person that you weren't really friends with her. She was your teacher. So you were never an equal. And to the degree that I wanted to be taught, it really worked for a while, because, you can not be responsible for your own learning if you have someone who's a very strong personality telling you what to do all the time. And that, that ran out for me. I really, for lack of a better term, needed to individuate. And, I think that's one of the other questions about like, when was the time that I stood up for something? And I stood up for another person that was in this little group of mine and of hers, actually, because it bothered me how she was being treated. I thought it was wrong. My moral compass took over and I said something, and I was kicked out of the group. So, which kind of, that explains a lot. When you get kicked out for having a difference of opinion, it was a little culty. I'll just say it,
Yeah.
At the same time, like you were talking about taking a chance for love, right? That's another chance for love, right? It's standing up
Yes,
for
for
somebody
myself.
else, but then
Yeah.
standing up for yourself as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it's interesting what you're saying, because we often get so sucked into that, somebody said I need to do, right?
Yeah.
And I would say particularly as women,
Yeah.
we get so sucked into that rather than, what does my heart want? What do I need? Where is my life taking me? But it's that insecurity that we have in a way that
Mhm.
is like trusting ourselves sometimes is so challenging. It's so
I mean, that is one of my biggest life lessons for sure, is trusting myself. Yeah, I needed so much external validation for so long, and that was a huge courageous moment for me to trust myself in spite of um, the criticism and I was being given, not just by the leader of this group, but the other women that were very much wanted to be on her good side and wanted to remain in the group. So there had to sort of be a narrative crafted about me that wasn't, it just wasn't true, that I was a coward and I had no integrity and I was a leader killer and like all of these insane things that I can laugh at now, the kind of things you say to someone, uh, to make them feel bad, like really to make them like, and then, that was a stark reality. Like I had to reckon and reconcile that I considered these people my friends, and nothing could be further from the truth. These, it wasn't the whole group, but most of them. And yeah, it was a huge wake up call for me that I had made a huge left turn and I was trying to participate in a group based on, I think, more of like a materialistic image of success. And because this is what was valued in this group, was how ambitious you were and how up to things you were, and how extraordinary you were all the time, and getting every area of your life to be a 10, sort of this exhausting pursuit of perfection that I frankly have no interest in. So I am a seeker. I am endlessly curious, but my compass isn't about the grade. And my definition of success is just different, if that's fine, whatever floats people's boats, as we say. But yeah, but it was an exit.
I have a question for you, Tami. Was there a point where there were warning signs that you overstepped?
Totally. I knew this was coming about a year before it happened. And because what kept not sitting with me was that the only way to participate in this group was to also participate in the company that she was building, meaning being a life coach or an executive coach. And I did some light administrative work for them. And but I wasn't like, I didn't share the vision of making this person famous that everyone else did. I could care less about her fame and her fortune. And And I remember asking her one time, because we had these, we would go away for the weekend and like into the Hamptons, is very glamorous, and like be at one of her clients' house who was like very rich, and it was like this gorgeous house out in the Hamptons. And it was one of those weekends, and we did it for her birthday and all of this. And I just said like one morning, like over coffee, and I was like, is it possible to be your friend and not be an employee in your company? And she was really honest, and she's like, no, I don't think so. Like to be with me is to share my vision. And if you don't, there's kind of no room for you. And it was a whole other year before the kerfuffle happened that was really over somebody else. And I think what I saw was an opportunity to assert myself. And although it wasn't conscious, the asserting of myself is what got me to, I was literally, excommunicated, and she wouldn't talk to me after that, and she wouldn't, she rebuffed my attempts at, working things out like the way people do. If there's, if there's a rift, if there's a
highway or the highway, right?
Yeah, if there's a conflict in a relationship, I mean, those happen, but
it's interesting. It's interesting too, because like, the company that she came from was all about integrity and responsibility, but yet that's not how they dealt with their business. So, and issues like this, right? So
yeah,
that in itself is really interesting. And also like a aha, like, oh, it's time to leave, right? Like,
yeah,
if you are not living your life based on these values, then what is the point, right?
yeah.
I think for myself and Martina, who did a lot of volunteering with that company, it was the same conversation. It was like, I don't feel respected, and you're not being very responsible or living with integrity. So I don't think I want to play anymore. But I think those are those lessons we learn from participating and doing that, right? Like, I clearly needed to have some work on my boundaries, and I think that's one of the big things I learned out of doing that. So I needed that lesson, right? Like, maybe that's not what I thought I was going to learn from participating.
It's true, right? Yeah, the lessons you never thought you needed, but got in spades. No, I 100% agree with that. There was a way that these very well-meaning concepts could be weaponized instead of lifting people up. They were also used to control and manage, and that was the downside of it.
Yeah. So I know you studied energy healing after that. So tell me, what fills you up? What, to recharge your batteries, what gives you that energy to go and participate in life and do the things you love?
Yeah, I mean, what fills me up for sure is my relationships. I have spent a lot of time and effort and energy on developing really solid relationships that are heart-centered, I would say, and with women that are, that we share a value system of honesty and kindness and just being champions of one another. Yeah, I think we all need that. And I know I definitely needed that. I didn't get that from my mother. So I think there's a big part of me that I feel like that, is that a Dr. Seuss book? Are You My Mother? That children's book where this poor little creature, I think it was a bird, and it kept going to all the wrong places. Are you my mother? I can very much relate to that. And it was an unconscious search for me of like looking for relationships with women that would be nurturing and guiding and protecting. So no wonder I was attracted to a very outspoken person, and the people around her were also very outspoken. And there was something about that I thought was guidance and love, and it wasn't that. But I now understand what that is for real. And have that happily. And that's what fills me up for sure. And I think I have my relationship with sort of a universal power is really important to me too. Like my spiritual life fills me up. Yeah, that's very important. It's definitely a guiding force in my life.
Something to lean on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you, what do you consider your superpower is?
Yeah, that's such a good question. All right. I think I have a few. I'm happy to say. I think one of my superpowers is that I am very empathetic. And it is not hard for me to be in another person's shoes. And it has me be a very tuned in listener. And I'm someone who can offer guidance without judgment. So that's one superpower. Another one is I can disassociate at will. So this comes in very handy. I've had a lot of medical issues that have been very uncomfortable, and I've spent a lot of time with like procedures and things. And it has come in very handy that I can just sort of leave my body a little when it's uncomfortable. And I've had many a chuckle about that with my therapist, because I've worked, I've spent years like getting back in my body because I was so, skitzed out from all of my traumas and stresses. And now, I can kind of go in and out as I need to, and something's a little uncomfortable, I can like take a little trip and, come back later. All the doctors are like, you're so cool, calm, and collected. And I'm like, no, not really. I'm just
not here.
Disassociated.
I just left. I just went somewhere. It's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just took a little trip, while you were like lasering or doing this, that, and the other thing, whatever it was. So, yeah, I had 4
I'm laughing, but honestly, it truly is a really powerful thing to have that mind-body control that you can like, pleasant procedure, I'm going to that collective consciousness and I'll be back later, right? Like we can all do that. We just don't think we have those powers.
Yeah. I definitely learned the ability to control that at the Barbara Brennan school, because it's all about learning how we hold our energy and where it comes from and what we do with it, and sort of being hyper aware of that. Yeah. So
really good. Really good.
It was kind of funny. So.
All right. So if you had a magic wand and could give people any quality, what would it be? Why?
I think empathy. I don't know. I feel like in this world right now, there's I don't know, in my circle, there's no lack of empathy, but I would say in the world, there are a lot of people I wish I could tap them on the head with a wand and give them empathy, because I make up that would have things go differently, and that there would be more support for people and more consensus on wanting to lift people up and versus tear them down. So yeah.
That's very, very powerful, right? Like,
Yeah.
Can we all do that, right? Can we give up more is better? And can we give up, like all those conversations and get into the place where if you lose, everybody loses, right?
Yeah.
And winning at your cost is not winning; it's losing in a way.
Right.
But in the world we live in, it's a little twisted. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that sense of mutual aid. Rather than that being something that people have to like study and learn how to do, like it'd be more natural. And it is, like, I'm not saying everyone. And I feel very grateful that the communities I participate in, that's what they value. I just, we're not in the ruling class, so to speak. So that's where I feel like it's missing in our politics.
And it's beautiful that you found your groups, right? Ultimately, I think that's the part of the purpose of life, that we go and find our tribe in a way. I don't know, tribe is not the right word, but
our people.
Our people, the people that just will love us and cheer us on and love us through all, and give us a kick in the butt every so often, right? If necessary. But still be there to hold us, right?
Yes.
So last question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to be remembered as, or what do you want people to remember about you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would like to be remembered for kindness. I think it's an underrated feature in our world. And it's not hard. So, and I know it makes a big difference. I've been told it makes a difference for people. So I would like to be remembered for my kindness and just my humanity. I have a tremendous amount of compassion and sense of solidarity with people. I mean, I really feel like we're all in this soup together. And what are we going to make with it? Like, how are we going to do this? And I think I'd like to be remembered as someone who valued that, and hopefully, stood up for that in ways that were impactful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. Tami, thank you so much for playing with us today. We really appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. We know these aren't the easiest questions, and it's not the conversations people have every day, but we really thank you for the light that you brought to the questions today. Thank you everyone for listening. If you loved what you heard today, please share with your friends. Please leave us a review. And please remember, you are extraordinary and you rock. Until next time, Martina.
Bye for now. Tami, do you want to say bye?
Just ciao. Thank you.